Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. To those who are here in person, to those live streaming, and to our friends in Avalon who also have the opportunity to join us in real time. I will have our General Counsel take a roll call to establish a quorum.
Member Lopez.
Present.
Vice President Otto. President Craighead.
Here.
Member Benitez.
Here.
Member Miller. We have a quorum of 3.
Thank you. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's agenda. The board took action on the following items. On item 3.1, the board voted 4-0 to approve the following actions. To approve the expulsion of student ID number 201179-303 and to suspend the enforcement of the expulsion orders pursuant to Education Code Section 48917 and provide an opportunity for the students to attend another school within the district. The student will be eligible to apply for readmission after January 26, 2025. To approve the expulsion of student ID numbers 2011425510. The student will be eligible to apply for readmission after January 26, 2025. But I'm wondering, I think it should be 2026. I think that's a typo. And I'm going to change that for the record to be January 26, 2026.
Thank you.
Okay. On item 3.2, the board voted 4-0 to approve the agreement between the district and classified employee number E0064155. The employee agrees to 30-day unpaid suspension in exchange for a revocation of the district's recommendation for dismissal and a release for any and all legal claims against the district. On item 3.3, the board approved by a vote of 4-0 to defend the federal civil action number 225 CV 01121 HDV. On item 3.4, the board provided legal counsel direction, but took no reportable action. Okay, now we are at adoption of the agenda, and before we adopt the agenda, I have a slight amendment on item 14.2, the classified personnel report. On page 4, we need to remove the nutrition services worker 1 from the abolishments. So as we adopt the agenda, it will be with that modification.
Move to approve agenda as modified.
Second.
Discussion? We will have our general counsel take a roll call vote.
Member Lopez.
Aye.
Vice President Otto.
Aye.
President Craighead.
Aye.
Member Benitez.
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you. And now we are at introduction of our student representative. So Vanessa Holden, this is your turn to come and share a little bit about yourself and also Wilson High School. Welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa Holden, and I first want to say I'm very thankful to have this opportunity to speak with you all today, and I hope you all have had an amazing week so far. I'm super excited to share Wilson's accomplishments with you today. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a senior in the WAVE pathway and a valedictorian. Aside from ASB president, I have been involved on campus as Key Club president and WAVE Club president, as well as a Linker commissioner, program director of Acing Autism, and also captain of the girls tennis varsity team, leading us to a Moore League victory this past fall. These past 4 years, both I and the student body have tried to live out our values as Bruins, which us and our Principal Caverly, have said to be brave, respectful, united, inspirational, and noble. Immediately following our spring semester elections for 2025, which have made me very fortunate to work alongside an amazing council. We've been super packed with events, emphasizing community outreach first and foremost. We have hosted a canned food drive and toy drive. We were able to raise 1,100 cans in partnership with Salvation Army, thanks to our Governor of Human Relations and Welfare, Malaya Terry. Furthermore, Zygoma's Girls, a club I'm in, which is comprised of the top 25 most involved girls on campus, won the toy drive, which was hosted by sophomore class president Sahak Bili V2 Mock, and that was in partnership with Spark of Love, and basically donating toys to economically disadvantaged students. Additionally, in response to the Palisades fires in LA, many Wilson clubs, such as Wave Club and Surfriders clubs, just to name a few, fundraise money as well as supplies to give back to families who have suffered as a consequence of these fires. Onto social and cultural awareness. This month is Women's History Month, as most of you may know. Female Leadership Academy, Angela Pimentel, is sponsoring many events this month, such as a movie night, teachergrams, a female leadership showcase, and many more, which we are all super excited for. This past month of February was Black History Month, and they had many spirit days, such as talent shows, dress days, and a movie night. This was led by Young Black Scholars President Nalani Fulton to recognize Black students as well as important Black historical figures and leaders. Also celebrating the large array of cultures represented at Wilson, we celebrated Lunar New Year with the help of Kamai Club, passing out candies and hanging up lanterns around campus, and Asian American and Pacific Islander Club are looking forward to hosting an upcoming night market. In hope of spreading awareness of teen dating violence, Wilma's Club at Wilson hosted Orange Day, where they handed out orange stickers and snacks, just in hopes to educate students on recognizing toxic relationships and signs of abuse very early on in their relationships. Upcoming, we will also be celebrating our annual Denim Day, which recognizes Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we will be asking students to support survivors and educate themselves on sexual assault as well as combating victim blaming. Moving on to the sports category, we are excited to have just recently begun our 19th annual dodgeball tournament, led by our governors of dodgeball, Catherine Thompson and Hannah Stump. We have 41 teams this year, which is a lot, and we are just super excited to support these people every even day and find the results of the tournament. Our Bruins have been truly working their hardest in sports alongside their academics, with our surf team undefeated 10-0 in league so far. Girls tennis won Moore League and made a CIF appearance. Our football team was a CIF runner-up. Cheer won the JAMS National Championship. Boys water polo won Moore League as well as making a CIF appearance. Girls water polo won Moore League alongside being accepted into the CIF Open Division. Girls cross country, girls volleyball, and many individuals from Wilson Wrestling also made CIF appearances, just to name a few. And boys and girls soccer all got to the CIF quarterfinals. I just want to say amazing job to all these Wilson athletes, and thank you so much for making us proud and working hard every single day. I also wanted to give a special shout out specifically to our girls track and field team for their chance this May to win their third year in a row of a CIF state championship. We have high hopes for all of our spring sports as well, and are wishing all of our Wilson athletes a lot of good luck in their upcoming season. One thing about us Bruins is that not only are we willing to give our hearts out to each other, but we love to have fun as well. We just recently had our Love Boat theme winter formal, which was led by our fall semester senior class president, Alejandro Martinez. And we had not one, not two, but 3 churro carts and had over 790 students dancing to music, eating, taking pictures, and having an absolute blast. ASB also helped our Pathway Ambassadors, which was led by Mr. Jelenowitz for a site night, which basically basically are introducing freshmen to not only pathways, but teachers, spirit groups, clubs, and sports teams across campus. Upcoming, we are also having an open house, which is going to be actually our first year doing it in pathway formats instead of classrooms, just so students is a little bit more organized for parents and students to get around. This year, we also had our first elective fair during just a regular school day lunch, where students and or teachers were able to run a booth and tell students about certain classes they could take the following year or even the years after. On top of that, we are also starting a sort of organization called the Wilson Leadership Opportunity to educate all students on how to get involved on campus. Our student body quickly found that it was super hard for students to get involved if they didn't already know someone or just didn't have like papers with a bunch of deadlines. So we decided to make kind of a half-sheet flyer with a QR code linked to just a whole list of literally every single thing you can get involved in, and as well as how to contact people in charge of those various organizations. Student leadership is something that we personally believe that all students should have access to, and we are excited to hear many student voices in future months, especially for our ASB fall semester candidate interest meeting on April 8th. Wilson loves to give love. We celebrated National Counselor Week by giving all the counselors at our school a sign of appreciation, as well as kind of serenading them a little bit, just basically saying our appreciation for how much they give to us, even behind closed doors. They do so much that we can't even imagine. Furthermore, for Valentine's Day, we made Valentine's grams for every single student on campus, and we basically gave them a little heart-shaped note with a little sweet saying and a piece of candy, just to show gratitude for every student's attendance at Wilson. For us seniors, past 4 years have absolutely flown by, and we have many senior activities to look forward to that our senior class council has been working basically every day on, including our senior assembly on Friday, decision day, senior mug day, senior breakfast, signing day, prom led by our junior class council, senior breakfast, grad night, grad walk, and many others. I'd also like to give a quick thank you to our two newest additions to our activities office, Ms. Valdez, who is our banker, and Ms. Williams, our activity secretary. For a while, we didn't have, we had a hiatus of having no banker really, and also no secretary, and it was really hard to juggle everything just with ASB and Ms. Fajar. But these women have become not only our leaders, but also our friends. Without them and Ms. Fajar, we'd be an absolute lost pack, so thank you guys for all you do. As I come to my conclusion, I'd love to announce also our new outdoor pool, which is currently under construction. Although it means that we have to cross the street whenever we go down Eximino, I'm super excited to tell all the freshmen and underclassmen that hopefully in either this upcoming year or the years after, they'll be able to experience this facility. I'm so proud of everything that Wilson has accomplished, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for the years to come. Thank you so much to you all for supporting our Wilson students, and thank you to all who contribute to Wilson's growing pride and our culture. I said it years ago, and the years of Wilson students in the future will all agree with me when I say it's a great day to be a Bruin.
Well, thank you for that wonderful report on Wilson, but we're wondering, because you're a senior, what your plans are.
Well, right now it's still a little bit undetermined, waiting for some decisions to come. I applied for 25 schools, so we're still hearing it back from a lot of those. Right now, probably my top choice would be UC Berkeley, but I did apply to basically, I think 4 UCs, just still kind of waiting and seeing as the decisions come in where I'm gonna go.
Okay, so Berkeley, would that be your dream school then?
I mean, I wouldn't consider it my dream school right now because I kind of like to put all my eggs in every basket, but but you know, it would be amazing to go there. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. And also, would you like to acknowledge anybody who's here with you?
Yeah, for sure. I want to give a special shout out to Principal Caverly, first of all. She's absolutely amazing. And also my parents back here, my mom and dad. They're always my little cheerleaders, so.
Okay, well, I think at this time we'll take a little break to do pictures, but I don't, okay. I thought, I didn't see, okay, but we've got, okay, so we are going to ask you to come up here, and then we're going to do some pictures. And now I will direct your attention to our screen for our vision in action.
Project Lead the Way is an amazing STEM program that we have in our district, and it's available for students from kindergarten through 12th grade. It's STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, preparing students for college and getting college credit in those 3 areas as well.
As a Project Lead the Way student for the past 5 years, I've had a great impression of the program. There are so many different classes that Project Lead the Way offers for whether you're interested in computer science to biomedical. Being able to take those classes so early on in middle school, I was really able to garner a good impression of what I want to do in the future. So I'm very grateful that Project Lead the Way is so specialized in its curriculum. The classes are so specific to the industry. So I've had a very good impression of it in the sense that I feel very prepared through the classes that I'm taking.
This benefits students in so many ways. It gives our students opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have. They can get college credits for their Project Lead the Way courses, which is an amazing opportunity for our kids to get free college credits.
The curriculum is structured in such a way that you get more than just knowledge, you get experience, and you also get to learn how to apply your experiences. Whereas in a regular classroom, you would just be learning how to do something from the textbook, like learning how to code from a textbook, versus where Project Lead the Way, it's so special that I'm able to apply my skills. Like now, through these computer science courses, I know how to code a game, and I know how to apply these skills when I go into the industry in the future.
And thank you to everybody who makes that possible, that we have these hands-on opportunities for our students and these experiences that enrich their education. Next on the agenda, we have public testimony on items listed on the agenda.
We have one speaker on Resolution 15.3,
Okay.
and that is Lisa Delmar Edmonds.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Delmar Edmonds, and I am the mom of a 4th grader and 7th grader at Cubberley TK8 School in District 5. I am also a proud Long Beach Unified graduate. I am the chair of our PTA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Our DEI committee put on our 2nd annual Black History Month Museum last month, where teachers could sign up to take their classes on a self-guided tour throughout the month of February. I have some photos I'd like to share as well for those at home. In addition, we hosted a family night, and I'm happy to share that we had an estimated 115 people in attendance. We are grateful that among those present were Board President Diana Craighead, Board Member Maria Isabel Lopez, and the district's Director of Black Student Excellence, Norma Spencer. Most notably, we had a local youth, environmental, and animal rights activist who is featured in the section of our museum titled Black History Being Made Today, Ms. Genesis Butler, in attendance as well. Ms. Butler is a Long Beach Unified graduate. The reason I'm here today is to share with you not the words of validation for our DEI activities from a parent guardian's perspective, nor from an educator's perspective like myself. I am here to share with you direct feedback from some of our 1st through 8th graders who completed a scavenger hunt during their class visit and answered the question, what was your favorite part of the museum? 2nd grade, it gave me more knowledge. 2nd grade, how many Black people stood up and did the right thing? 3rd grade, it's remembering and representing all Black legends. 3rd grade, that it is about what Black people did. 3rd grade, everything. 3rd grade, that they actually show Black history and it makes us remember things too. 4th grade, it's really cool. 4th grade, how history and our past and present is important. 5th grade, I like how it is about Black people and how they matter. 5th grade, my favorite thing about the museum is that they tell you who made stuff like peanut butter, the guitar, and more, and the fact that they're African Americans. 6th grade, the good explanations they wrote about the people that show how they impacted the world. 6th grade, seeing how many things African Americans have invented. 6th grade, I really like the Black History Being Made Today display and reading about Genesis Butler, Kia Brown, and Karis Rogers. And I saved this 5th grader's response for last. My favorite part of the museum is that all these Black people were the same culture as me and shares the same heritage. These are all powerful words of support for diversity, equity, and inclusion activities such as Cubberley's Black History Month Museum. Again, not from an adult's perspective, but directly from our youth. I acknowledge and I'm grateful for the district's recent messaging in regards to the continued support for our LGBTQ+ students and families, and the commitment to stand in solidarity with our immigrant students and families. I am here to share these words with you and to call on all adults who are here to support our students to continue fighting for each and every one of them. That seeing their various identities represented on their school campus and in the curriculum is critical, and it truly matters. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have no other speakers for
No other speakers
items
for-
on the agenda.
That's correct.
So do we have public testimony for items not listed on the agenda?
We do have 4 members of the public.
Okay.
And our first member is Barbara Cunningham.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, and esteemed colleagues. My name is Barbara Cunningham. I'm a speech and language pathologist at Millikan High School, an LBUSD alum, and a parent of LBUSD students. I'm honored to speak with you today as a dedicated SLP serving the students of Long Beach Unified. I'm here not just on behalf of my colleagues, but for the thousands of students who rely on our expertise to find their voices, succeed academically, and build the communication skills necessary for their futures. SLPs are often thought of as professionals who help students with speech sounds or stuttering, the speech teacher. While that is certainly part of what we do, our role extends far beyond that. We assess and treat students with language disorders that impact their ability to read, write, and express themselves clearly. We work with students who have social communication challenges, including those with autism, helping them build the skills needed to form friendships and to succeed in the classroom. We support students with significant disabilities, ensuring they have access to augmentative and alternative communication so they can meaningfully participate in the classroom. In addition to direct therapy, we conduct comprehensive evaluations, write legally binding reports, collaborate with teachers and families, attend numerous IEP meetings, train staff on communication strategies, and ensure that every student on our caseload receives the individualized support that they need. And yet, under the current caseload model, our effectiveness is often measured solely by a number, the number of students that are assigned to us, rather than the full scope of our responsibilities. This is why we as a department are urging you to consider shifting to a workload approach in the upcoming contract negotiations. A workload model accounts for the totality of what we do, ensuring that SLPs have the time and resources necessary to provide high-quality services, not just check off minutes on a spreadsheet. Districts that have implemented this model have seen improved student outcomes, reduced burnout among SLPs, and even cost savings by decreasing staff turnover. LBUSD has always been a leader in providing excellent education. Adopting a workload approach for speech-language pathologists would not only allow us to serve our students more effectively, but would also demonstrate the district's commitment to equity and excellence in special education. We are not asking for less work. We are asking for smarter, more sustainable way to do our work, one that benefits our students, supports our educators, and upholds Long Beach Unified's mission to provide the best possible education for every child. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Liz Crabtree.
Thank you, Board, for allowing me to speak today. I am Liz Crabtree. I've been in education as an educator and as a parent for 35 years. Currently, I work at one of our district's middle schools. I'm here today to question the validity of our district motto, excellence and equity, in regards to student reading proficiency. When we first came back from COVID quarantine, I was horrified that testing showed that a large number of students were reading at an early elementary school level. I thought perhaps it was because we hadn't been in school for a year. I thought that after being back in school, it would get better. It didn't. It's gotten worse. I've spoken with teachers and parents from middle schools across the district, and I find that my school is not the only school experiencing this. This in no way embodies excellence. When families send our children to elementary school, it's with the expectation that our children will be taught how to read. After all, teachers are the experts. When their children are unable to read what other children can, educated families hire outside help. I've talked to many tutors who make their living fixing what we in our schools didn't. The lowest rate for tutoring that I've been able to find is $50 an hour. Typically, it's over $100. How is that equitable? To be effective, tutoring needs to happen a minimum of 2 hours a week. People who have money are able to pay. People who are struggling financially are not able to pay, and the cycle continues. I'm not trying to lay the blame for low reading at elementary schools' doorsteps. Effective reading instruction for students who haven't caught on to reading in early elementary school isn't plausible in the classroom. Effective remediation requires one-on-one, explicit instruction with struggling readers for 2 hours a week. How can a teacher with 35 students in class accomplish this? And by the time students get to middle school, reading instruction is no longer taught. In secondary credential school, you're not taught how to teach students how to read. It's assumed they already know by the time they get to you. Every elementary school needs a person trained to teach students who are cognitively and linguistically able to read, but who are struggling to get there. Or every middle school needs a person with the same qualifications to catch struggling readers in 6th grade. With our budget struggles, I know this sounds excessive, but I'd like to remind you that somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% of prison inmates are illiterate. And I'd like to remind you that even if a portion of families with children who reach middle school unable to read banded together to sue the district, it would be a lot less expensive just to hire some teachers to teach the kids. The families and staff of Long Beach Unified School District challenge you to live up to our motto: be excellent, be equitable. We ask that you put in place a system that ensures that students who are cognitively and linguistically able do not leave our schools without the ability to read.
Thank you.
Mackenzie Roddy.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. My name is Mackenzie Roddy. I'm also a speech-language pathologist, also known as SLP, currently working at Whittier Elementary School. I've been an SLP in public education since the year 2011. This evening, I'm not here to talk specifically about my site, but rather I'm here to shed some light on the vital role that school-based SLPs take here in our district and the extensive workload we manage to support students' communication and academic success. A school-based SLP is responsible for assessing, diagnosing, and treating students with a variety of speech and language disorders. These include articulation difficulties, childhood apraxia of speech, language delays and disorders, fluency disorders like stuttering, and social communication challenges, often seen in some of our autistic students. Our role is not just about helping students speak clearly. We also work on language comprehension, literacy skills, and as we saw last board meeting, augmentative and alternative communication methods for our nonverbal students. Beyond direct therapy, SLPs handle a significant administrative workload. We conduct comprehensive evaluations, write detailed reports, and develop individual education programs, or IEPs, tailored to each student's needs. We also juggle compliance with legal requirements, manage caseloads, excuse this interruption, that often exceed recommended limits. We bill Medi-Cal to reimburse some funding for our school district and participate in professional development specific to our field. We collaborate with teachers, special educators, and parents to integrate communication goals into the classroom, ensuring students can succeed academically and socially. In short, a school-based SLP wears many hats: clinician, educator, advocate, collaborator, to name a few. We juggle therapy, assessments, paperwork, training, and compliance, all while striving to create a positive and supportive learning environment for every student we serve. It's a challenging but deeply fulfilling role that plays a critical part in shaping young lives. The impact of an SLP extends far beyond the classroom, shaping a student's ability to express themselves and connect with the world around them. The SLPs of Long Beach Unified urge you to recognize our vital role in student success as we negotiate the upcoming contract. Supporting the proposed changes, such as clarifying contract language specific to the role of SLP and ensuring we have manageable workloads, will enable us to better meet diverse student needs and create a more equitable, supportive learning environment for all. Thank you for your time and dedication to student success.
Thank you.
And our last speaker, Aaron Balila.
Hello, my name is Aaron Balila. My email address is aaronbalila@gmail. That's ARRENBALILA. On December 13th, 2024, I received a call from a teacher that my son's score dropped 40 points on the iReady test. When I went to approach the principal, we spoke about the issue, and I have requested that the score not be changed and that the original score reflects exactly what I've been arguing for the last couple years. Fast forward to February 14th, I had contacted the principal at the school and ran into the counselor that was there and was essentially told that the score that I received a call about was no longer on the actual printout. It wasn't until I got called. It wasn't until I was told that it was a figment of my imagination, that score never happened, that I had a situation, because I was going through a custody exchange, and part of my thing is I don't feel the school district is adequate enough in their reading. You guys currently have 82 schools within the district. More than half of them are 60% of the kids can't read or do math, and 75% of those kids can't do science. You guys are passing 75% of these kids, and they can't read or do math at their grade level. My son, when I brought that up, it came to a point where I received a letter from the principal, and it acknowledged the fact that my son's score showed a 40-point drop from what the original score was. My concern is like this. You guys have de facto segregated districts, school sites. And many of those schools are underfunded, and none of those kids can read or do math. My son is in first grade. I've been dealing with this for 3 years. I brought it up to everybody's attention. I've gone to this very building almost weekly for a couple months at a time just to address this issue. For me, it wasn't until that person sat there and told me I'm making it up that I was furious. A 41-point drop that was acknowledged, that had to get written down by the teacher and the principal to acknowledge that. That's 41-point drop from his current score, which shows that he is under his actual grade level for reading. What are you guys doing about it? Are you guys sitting there providing more money for these schools, especially in colored communities? I'm system impacted. At Long Beach and at Cypress, I'm part of the Rising Scholars in Justice program. I've been in this district. If I'm not mistaken, I was actually Mr. Samuel's class at Cabrillo. So I've been in this school. I know what you guys do. You guys don't teach. My issue is, how are you guys coming up with this score and telling parents that they're emerging K, emerging preschool? Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have reports on superintendent advisory groups. We will start with the Business, Budget, and Policy Development Group. Dr. Benitez.
Just one item for me, Madam President. Just to update our board, our legal counsel is working with our executive team on a policy informed by community, actually, reaffirming our support for immigrant students and families in the context of immigration enforcement. So as has been shared by legal counsel, we should have a first iteration of this policy for us to review at our March 19th meeting.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the Instruction and Student Learning Supports Advisory Group. Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. This year, schools are participating in a pilot program focused on GATE professional learning for their teachers in grades TK to 5 or TK to 8. Students at these sites are experiencing differentiated learning activities, and teachers are receiving training on GATE strategies, tools, and lesson designs with the expectation of implementation for the benefit of all learners. Schools in this pilot program include Coverly, Fremont, Madison, McKinley, Prisk, Robinson, and Twain. And currently there's 9,200 students who are GATE identified district-wide. Students have the opportunity to participate in universal screening for possible GATE identification during their 2nd and 4th grade years. And then students who are identified as GATE remain GATE identified through high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have workforce development, but Mr. Miller is not here, so we have no report. And we will go to student outcome-focused governance, Mr. Otto.
Yes, later on our agenda, we have a large discussion with our consultants on student outcomes-focused governance and the implementation timeline for that. So I'm not going to talk to you about that now. We'll wait for the agenda item, which is item 15.1, and we can we'll get a good presentation about what it is that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent calendar. So we need a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
I do have just questions on items 32, 35, and 36. A total of $18,400,000 in contracts for staffing for students with exceptional needs. And I guess my questions are, what training and experience is required for the staff being hired under these contracts? And what measurable outcomes are expected from the staffing contracts in terms of student progress? And then I guess finally, what can we do to hire our own people instead of outsourcing?
President Craighead, just want to add, because I think it'll be Dr. Sosa Valderrama. We got a memo today. If you could also, Dr. Sosa Valderrama, provide some context on and building on Member Lopez's questions, why the increase, sort of provide us the context of what the thinking was. I had item 29 also, in addition to the items that Board Member Lopez mentioned.
All right, so the contracts that we have, we initiated those at the beginning of the school year, and those are typically based on the expenditures for the previous school year. So when we provide the request for a renewal of a contract that's ongoing, it's based on the previous year. So what we've done now, mid-year, kind of looking at all of those contracts and seeing if we are on track to expend those contracts, or if we're going to need additional services depending on the amount of students that we're serving and the types of services that they're getting. So let's see, to go through all of these. So for item 29, for example, that is a contract for nursing services. So for example, that is based on, and you can reference the memo that I provided you, that is based on staffing that have, staff that have left, so they have resigned, or there's current vacancies. It also includes the need to fill those positions, and those are filled through our Personnel Commission. And for nursing, for example, these are LVNs in our district. They are called health assistants or senior health assistants. And so we need a list. And as you might know, there is a shortage of health staffing, not just in the school district, but in hospitals and in other healthcare areas. So these, this contract is to move. We have a couple of contractors, and if a contractor doesn't have the staffing that we need, then we ask another contractor that we have a current contract with. And so whoever can provide us the support, the staff, to make sure that we don't have any lapse in services for our students, then that's where the staff comes from. So there are, so Cross Country has the staffing that another contractor doesn't have. So that's one reason. It also includes additional staffing that we have. So if there's a need, because there's additional students that need staffing support, so that is students that might need insulin or G-tube feedings or daily medications or catheterizations, several other things, then we also have to increase the amount of services. So for item 29 specifically, that is for nursing services. 32 and let's see, I think those are all behavior support services. And so we have several things happening. As I mentioned, and in the memo it explains, there are several, we actually have 14 contracts with behavior intervention services. And that is to ensure that the students in our classrooms are either staffed with their one-to-one for the students that have one-to-one, or in our special day classes that they have the appropriate aid staffing that is assigned to those classrooms. And so like with the nurses, like with the instructional aid specials, there is turnover. And so we do have vacancies in our district that we are flying positions for, that we are interviewing every week. But we can't keep up with the number of vacancies that we have. So these agencies help staff those positions so that the students are receiving their services. So again, it's taking from some contracts that those agencies can't fulfill the staffing that we're requesting, for others that can, and it's also an increase in services, an increased need for one-to-one aids, specifically in this case for behavior support. You had another question, Ms. Lopez.
Yeah, the just the training that they receive prior to working with their students.
Yes. So in our contract, there are required trainings that the individuals have to go through before they start. So if they're a behavior intervention assistant, they have to go through what we call the NCI training, nonviolent crisis prevention training. And then there's general trainings around like child abuse reporting, all of those mandated trainings. So those have to be done. And then if they're an IA special and there's diaper changing, for example, they're trained on those procedures, health and safety. And that is supposed to happen before. So that is part of the contract that we have with those agencies. And so when they're sending those staff to us, those staff are training these things minimally. We don't have individual training with the individuals ourselves, like in a large group, but our staff does provide the agencies with like a slide deck of important things that are applicable to our schools. Yes, so, and with the turnover, that has to happen, right, on an ongoing basis. Our own staff are provided with training 2 days during the school year. And you had a couple more.
What measurable outcomes are expected?
Yeah. So for the students that, the aides that are assigned to individual students, they are working on the students' IEP goals. So the student, if they have a behavior aid, the aide's job is really to help the student meet those behavior goals. And so if they're working on socialization or are asking for help, whatever it is that are in their behavior goals, that's what they're working towards. That's the outcomes.
So just related to that, Dr. Sosa Valderrama, so I don't remember when, but a few months back, our board made a decision regarding our behavior intervention supervisors. Is my getting
That's
that?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about these contracts with the registered behavior therapist? My understanding is they're not fulfilling the role or responsibilities of intervention supervisors. Can you talk a little bit more about what we're facing here in terms of needs of our students, and that we're not subcontracting out work that behavior intervention supervisors do?
Yes, so the behavior intervention supervisors, I think that you're talking about there were 6 positions, 4 individuals, positions that were cut last year. What you're seeing here is not a behavior intervention provider's job, really, because these are all direct services to students, one-to-one aides mostly. That work directly with students on a everyday basis. So they're in the classrooms with students. Many times they're with them from the time they get on the bus or they get off the bus, throughout the day until the end of the school day, which is different than behavior intervention supervisors. They supervise our behavior aides who are in the classrooms, but they themselves are not the direct service provider. And this is what this is.
And then last question, again, because we just got this memo today.
Yes,
Dr.
you did.
So appreciative of the memo, but there's a lot of information.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's important for our communities to also know the investments that we're making in increasing contracts. Yeah. So you referenced it. If you could speak a little bit more. I don't know what specific contract item this is, but student mental health services is one of the big increases. I know that we're serving more students with mental health therapy. Could you talk about that as well?
Yes, so that's the contract for South Bay High School. Okay. It's number 34. And that has to do with a couple of things. But primarily is that we have experienced an exponential growth in students being referred for what we call ERMS, or educationally related mental health services. And so for mental health services, we are asking for the contract to be increased because we were started the services with this contractor and they were at 518 students. Thus far, they've increased for 114 students, and there are still another 124 students on the wait list. So by the end of the school year, we're anticipating serving almost 700 students, and that's just with this contractor. And so we have witnessed this in the last couple of years, and we have started to work on ways that we can address that. Last meeting, you approved a grant for the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative. And so that is a capacity building grant that is allowing us to really build infrastructure currently so that we can essentially create a department that will be providing mental health services for students internally. So how we're currently planning to do it is using our wellness centers, our family resource centers, and the staff we have internally, and then being able to bill both Medi-Cal and insurance. So this is for students that don't necessarily have access to ERMS, and they don't have to either have insurance or Medi-Cal. We just get to bill them, but it would be open to everybody. And so we're starting out in this way and seeing what the need is and providing mental health services before it lends to the students needing ERMS.
Well, I would just like to highlight a couple of things on the business report. Our Lafayette Parent Booster Club donated $9,000. That represents a lot of work, a lot of volunteer effort. And our local Rotarians donated $6,000 for library services. And I know the Rotarians have been a big supporter of literacy as far as the district is concerned. So thank you to those groups. So, do we have
just one more acknowledgement? So we did get a short memo on us going for the second year of Head Start, early Head Start. So I just wanted to call that out in terms of our efforts around Head Start and early Head Start for year 2, I believe. Yep. Thanks.
I have just another question on item number 43. If someone can explain that bid with the California Colleges School Bus Buys contract number 000-442. Item number 43.
I don't know if we have, oh,
Yeah, we're piggybacking off of a bid for purchase of technology equipment for the district. $43, the agency bid? Yes. So $250,000. Yes. Yes.
any further discussion? I'll ask our general counsel to take a roll call vote.
Sure. Member Lopez.
Aye.
Vice President Otto.
Aye.
President Craighead.
Aye.
Member Benitez.
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you. And now we are on to new business. Item number 15.1, student outcome focused governance, our implementation timeline. And I would just like to mention for this item, the board has been working with a couple of coaches from the Council of Great City Schools, and this is a process that we've been working on for quite a while. And so we have our coaches with us this evening. We have Mr. Greg Klein that you can see now on this screen, and I believe we have Mr. AJ Craig. We do not. Okay, I saw that nod. We do not. Okay. So welcome to Mr. Greg Klein, who's joining us tonight for our meeting. I would just like to add that we've been working on this process, and our coaches have been polling us individually. We've been working on things like the implementation timeline and our bylaws, which we will not be discussing tonight at any great length, only as to how they pertain to the timeline. But they've been gathering information in between our meetings so that we can come together at our meeting and discuss this. So what we will be discussing this evening is the implementation timeline, and with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Greg Klein. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. Good evening, board members, superintendent. Yeah, I'm back channeling with my coach colleague AJ, who is caught up in another board meeting right now. Apologies. Hopefully he may pop on here at any minute to help answer questions. But thank you for having us. Tonight, my role is mainly to answer additional clarifying questions about the implementation timeline, the governance model itself, or about our coaching in general. If you have those questions, please have them ready. We'll get to them in just a minute. Of course, if you don't have questions, that's fine. We will just keep it moving. But I did want to share briefly up front, as Chair Craig had said, this timeline has been designed based on a few things, particularly going back and honoring all the work that has been already accomplished on this student outcomes focused governance journey, going back quite a while. It's based also on your most recent board quarterly self-evaluation that we conducted with you all back in December. And then, of course, we've had individual conversations as well. And all of this is all of the work of the timeline is just to support the board's attempt at aligning closer to the student outcomes focused governance model framework. And the idea is that the timeline supports the board reaching the threshold for effectiveness on behalf of students after one additional year of implementation. And then that second year is really more of a maintenance phase. But it's really important, though, and I want to be crystal clear that this needs to be the board's timeline, not my timeline as your coach or anything like that. It is not uncommon for boards to choose a longer, more spread out implementation. And so if there are any suggested changes to the timeline, it is never too late to offer those, including this evening. In general, once a timeline is adopted, an implementation team forms, and that includes myself, the chair and one other board member, the superintendent, and any other staff the superintendent wants to designate to the work. In Long Beach's case, I don't know. It may mean simply me joining that SOFG advisory group that you just mentioned. I'm not sure. or sometimes there's an agenda, a board meeting agenda setting meeting that occurs prior to a board meeting, and that may be an appropriate place to do the work. So we would figure that out if the timeline is adopted. Regardless, though, the implementation team meets about monthly, could meet more frequently in the beginning if y'all want. It's up to you. And that's where the more detailed work gets planned out on how the governing team is going to accomplish the tasks in the timeline. It is also very common during those implementation team meetings for tasks in the timeline to get pushed back a month or two as we get into the work. So that is common experience. So I wanted to name it up front. Usually the implementation team will email out changes to the timeline that are more significant, and some systems even choose to bring the timeline back to the full board for regular readoption, just to make sure there's good transparency amongst the governing team and also with the public. On the timeline, you'll see there are lots of opportunities for ongoing training on various governance topics. I know many of you have received many trainings already, which is amazing. I just wanted to be clear that none of the trainings on the timeline are currently planned out in any great detail, but I did want board members to know that training is a part of this. You don't already have to be an expert in this model. That's what we're here to do, to help and to train. And that training can occur right here in regular public meetings or special public meetings. Sometimes it's as simple as sharing a video or a resource to be read. And then lastly, if adopted, I wanted to be clear that we're here to support the entire governing team. That means the board as a whole, but that also means individual board members, including your student board reps. We'd love to include them and support them in the work as much as you all want and as much as they all want. It also includes supporting the superintendent and anyone she designates. So please never hesitate to reach out. We really want to have your backs as a whole, as a team, and also individually. And with that being said, I'm here to do my best to answer any of your questions about the timeline or the model, and anything I can't answer or don't have a good answer for, I'm at least going to write down and make sure we get you a response right away.
Thank you. I know we have questions. I know Dr. Benitez has been waiting, and are you okay? He's been coughing,
Yes.
so
I'm going to try to hold it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Greg. I want to take us sort of up to top 30,000 high level. So understanding that our timeline, although you said other districts have sort of spread it out more, our timeline is, let's say takes us through December 2026 with the bulk of that work being done this calendar year. It is a very ambitious timeline. Would you agree with that characterization?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you spoke to it at the end. So tonight, our vote is around whether we want to take action on codifying commitments that we've made around how to advance our student outcomes focused governance work in alignment with other things that we're working on. So I'll use one example of the ambitiousness behind this timeline, but also really want you to walk us through what would it look like to push things back? What is the mechanism for that? What things do we consider on, is it a pushback of a month or a spreading out? Because much of this work, from my estimation, is scaffolded and tiered, right? That it's not sequential in the sense that you have to do them one right after another, but I want to use the example of governance. Not necessarily to speak on the specifics of bylaws, but in March, we have an activity that says or reads, adopt bylaws. I think that's very ambitious. We had a December retreat where we, I think, just kind of hit the tip of the iceberg with our bylaws conversation. So could you walk us through, if you want to use that as the example, or you can use another example of the activities embedded monthly, what it looks like to pivot. You talked about the potential of revisiting and readopting timelines. So I just want to get a sense of that, given that, we're trying this out. We're codifying today commitments, but that those most definitely will change to some extent.
Yeah, we say we all have to have a plan, and then we all have to have an understanding that the plan is likely to change. And so in the timeline, you'll see one of the things I definitely want to point your attention to, and I will come back to the bylaws in March for sure, is every quarter you'll see we've got you spaced out for completing the next quarterly self-evaluation. I would say that and the monthly implementation calls themselves, along with the monitoring conversations aligned to your monitoring calendar, those things you don't want to budge on. Those things you want to hold steady to that. Other tasks of making progress within the framework, such as updating your board operating procedures or receiving training on this topic or that topic. Those things there's more flexibility on. So yes, the March bylaw, they're in there for March. There's lots of ways you might move forward. I know that your legal counsel has been in direct communication, with members around latest drafts of bylaws. And it seemed, from my understanding, I'm not in the details on the content of the updated bylaws, but my understanding is there's some where where it seemed like there would be some consensus, and those might be ready for approval later this month. So in which case, technically, if the board does adopt some bylaws later this month, you might be able to say, oh, okay, we completed that task in terms of March. But maybe there's some bylaws that we are not ready to adopt. We need to have more conversation. We need to get these coaches out of our way. We need to have our own governing team conversations or board conversations, really, with ourselves at a meeting, and we need to have that timed out. And so I could imagine the implementation team adding to this calendar, even if after it's adopted, April discussion, May discussion, June discussion, you all control that. The last thing I'll say about bylaws is you were already in this work when I've met you all in December, specific to bylaws. If you were not in that work at this time, I probably would have placed the review of the operating procedures lower down in the timeline. But given that you were already just naturally there, it was already a part of your work, the timeline's just trying to keep that work moving. That's all.
So I have a question about changing the timeline as it's presented tonight. So if we decide that we will start adopting some of the bylaws in March, but that we will continue the review of the bylaws for April, and that changes in April, do we need to vote to change the timeline, or do we just amend it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And different systems handle that different ways. And frankly, in the beginning, I might recommend that the implementation team go ahead and recommend any updates, and that you might have the timeline on your consent calendars a lot in the beginning. If you feel that as a team, in order to maintain trust and transparency, that's the way to go, there's no problem with that. Because then it's just like any other policy of the board. It provides all board members with, the lead time to ask questions about it, whatever it may be. And if you want, before you adopt right now, I think we could add in more. We could change the language or add in a row in April or whatever would work for you.
I also like to publicly discuss some of the things that are on the timeline, because behind closed doors, I waited until we were here in a public setting to discuss them. And so, for example, if you can explain the board approval on board members serving on committees formed by the superintendent. So, in my opinion, this is a very great way of keeping board members interested in a committee away from those committees. And this is under actually unity and trust. But this is counter to unity and trust. This is just one of the things that's there. And I have quite a handful of other areas that I do want to discuss, because now we can't say, hey, I'm interested in this committee. I'd like to be a part of it. Now it has to be approved by the board. So when there's a board member that may be seen as maybe a little bit controversial, do we want that board member in that committee? Well, let's, maybe vote them not to be in that committee. So why do we have it under unity and trust when it's just counter that?
Thank you for that question. And for anyone's following along, Board Member Lopez is referring it's in the middle of the May section. Superintendent and board approve of any board member serving on committees formed by the superintendent. And the idea behind that comes straight out of the effectiveness framework. The spirit behind it, why we would say it does align with unity and trust and transparency, it is designed to avoid the situation where the superintendent is forming a committee, not a board committee. The superintendent and their staff are the leaders of this committee. And the superintendent is just picking, their favorite board member. And they're saying, I just want you to come and you're going to be my board liaison. This is a check on that. This is a check saying, whoa. We need transparency. If the superintendent wants a board member on their board, it requires, on their committee, that requires a vote of the board. It is the board that gets to say who the member shall be who serves on the superintendent's committee. That is why we think it promotes more unity and trust.
Why not leave it the way we have it, where we select the committees we want to be a part of, because you may end up as a board member in a committee that you have zero interest in.
So you're saying right now the superintendent has the advisory committees, but she says you all figure out who you want to send to me, and you all then have a process already where you choose them? Am I hearing that right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Then all we're saying is that's great. Don't just talk about it. Take an action. Vote to approve whatever you all agree to.
Yeah. My question there is, what if your colleagues don't agree with you being in that committee, and you end up in a committee that you may not have the interest to contribute what you like to contribute to the district?
How does that get resolved now?
What was that?
How would that dynamic be resolved now? Like, does that ever happen now where a board member serves on a committee where it's not their top choice?
Not to my knowledge, because we pretty much decided where we wanted to. We selected committees, gave options.
And what happens if 2 or 3 board members all want the same committee?
It hasn't happened.
It has happened. I'll speak to that.
Oh, okay. Not during my time.
And I don't want to dig into this too deep, because I do think this is a bylaws conversation as well. So here's my experience. My experience has been that I've had a combination of what Ms. Lopez has shared, where I was asked, what committee would you like to serve in? But under a different board chair, I was appointed to committees that it's not that I didn't have interest in, but my preference would have been to serve on another committee. So I'm not quite sure, as it is right now, whether we've codified or clarified who chooses, what the process is, with scenarios like you just outlined, Greg. What if 3 of us want to be on workforce? What would we do? Right? And we don't have a mechanism for that I'm aware of. And so I do think that's a bylaws conversation as well. When I first came onto the board, I was just told, this is the committee you're going to serve on. And when I asked, well, are these superintendent committee or board committees, it was vague at best. Right? So my experience has been sort of a mixed bag. I think because we're a collegial board now, we could have a conversation about it, but I worry that without process, without a decision-making sort of clarity, without a designated responsibility of who's doing what with what committee, that then we run into some gray areas, Greg. So because of that, I think it becomes bylaws, governance type conversation. The
Yeah,
timing of, sorry, one last thing. The timing of which then would coincide with whether we have this in April or May or June or July when we get to that conversation.
And that makes sense. And again, the spirit of it is to empower the board to to have that conversation with itself about who shall serve where, and that it's the board. It's not just if you all decide, hey, whoever raises their hand can have it. I mean, you all can decide that. The idea though is just to avoid, apparently this is not happening in Long Beach, which is great. So in other systems, it has arisen the time when board members they're like, oh, you're on that committee? I had no idea you were on that committee. Oh, the superintendent asked you to be on that committee? Oh, well, what if I want to be on that? Like, the point of this is to make sure that the board as a team gets a chance to have that conversation, and there's no secrets about it, and you all get the say.
Greg, I think just to be clear, that happened to me under a previous superintendent.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry.
Okay, I will continue. Continue under continuous improvement, create and facilitate opportunities for other members of the LBUSD community, including potential candidates for board service, to learn about being student outcome focused governance. So here's my reservation. I'm going to say it's more of a problem with this item because we've included potential candidates. Are we then in the business of vetting or actively recruiting individuals for the board? Because as an elected position, I think we should stay neutral, and we can also give unfair advantages to people. Let's say that someone is coming to these meetings, but then someone else is, just decided to run for board. Now, we already have a process where we meet with staff. We have an onboarding process already in place. So before someone comes into a position and elect to the board, there's an onboarding process. So are we now moving into recruiting for the board?
The short answer there is no, definitely not. I completely agree with your concern. The spirit behind this one is whoever are the self-declared candidates, they decide. It is definitely not designed where existing sitting board members are meant to go recruit anybody. The spirit behind it is that prior to election, candidates deserve to understand what they're getting into, and that the durability of the model will be stronger when candidates are actually trained in the model prior to running in the election. But that doesn't mean training only a few people. We recommend training the community, and sometimes training the community sparks people to be more curious in running for the board. And then there is a difference also between once you're elected and getting onboarded. That will still happen and definitely still do that. The spirit behind this is really to inspire the community, leaders in the community to step up, or people to find their leadership in the community who maybe want to run. I was working in another system in California just earlier this fall, and we did a training with the elected board. And one of the board members happened to also be on the ballot for, seeking to seek reelection. And at the end of the training, she was very clear that she at that time knew she had one declared opponent. And she felt it really important for her declared opponent to also receive training, because if they won, she wanted the work to continue and move forward, even if she wasn't going to be in the seat.
Well, but then we have board host first workshop in October, and then a second workshop for school board candidates on effective school board practices. Again, I think we should maintain political neutrality and avoid giving that perception that we're endorsing candidates. Now, holding these workshops not only give an advantage may give advantage to some candidates, but also what is considered effective school board practices may vary depending on those who are running for the seat.
Yeah, we would be training if thank you for the question. We would be training on not anyone's personal opinions on what are effective practices. We would be training on what the research shows would be most effective in terms of a board's leadership in raising student outcomes. And again, we are fiercely nonpartisan and non-political in our coaching. So we're not saying you can come and you can't come. We're saying everybody who's remotely interested in serving on this board, we would love to teach you more about this model. Not trying, and that's also the spirit behind having more than one workshop. Is if folks can't make the first one, they could try the second one.
Look, and here's another one. The board members fully recuse themselves from matters involving individual or organizations who made campaign contributions to them or who appointed them, which I wholeheartedly I'm on board with. However, then we're talking about, for example, TALB, who contributes to board members. So here, we would probably be left with one or two of us who would be then left to make decisions for teachers. So I think that we really have to look at what we're really voting on and really discuss language here.
Yes, I agree with that. Definitely look at what you're voting on, and please, at any time, if you want me to, literally turn off my camera, step away so you guys can discuss, that's also perfectly valid. This is a great opportunity to do that as needed.
Yes, Mr. Otto.
Yeah. In this conversation, because I thought, and when I say this conversation, what we're talking about now, because I think I'd like to ask you first is to explain to everybody here, because everybody doesn't know what this is. Thank you for not using an acronym for student-focused, outcomes-focused governance. But tell us what it is. Give us kind of a general definition, and I think that will answer a lot of these questions.
Thank you for the question. Yeah. So the Council of the Great City Schools is a national nonprofit organization made up of member school districts, generally the largest urban school districts in the country. I think it's about 80. And Long Beach is a member of the council. And the council provides a variety of services to its member districts on all sorts of topics about leading schools and running school systems and data and instruction and finance and all sorts of things. One of the services they offer are governance services. And to power that governance services, they have a research-backed framework, which we call the Student Outcomes Focused Governance Framework, and the acronym is SOFG. So in member districts that want governance services, this is the model that the council coaches in and provides. What happened was a little over 10 years ago, the best and most up-to-date research we had on school board effectiveness kind of came together and informed this framework. And so there were, what came to light in the research was the number one lever that boards have to pull on in terms of becoming effective in playing their role in increasing student outcomes. I mean, boards aren't going to go and actually teach students to read in the classrooms. That's not the board's role. But what is their role, their number one role, is setting the vision for the community, for the district based on the community's vision. So and we do that by adopting student outcome focused goals, which you all have done. You have adopted student outcome goals. The second highest leverage lever to pull on for a board to become effective on behalf of students is monitoring progress towards that goal. And we recommend spending up to 50%, at least 50% of your public meeting minutes monitoring the outcomes of your students. And these aren't just any outcomes. These are the outcomes aligned to your board adopted goals, which represent the community's prioritized vision. These are the things that your community told you all. This is what matters most for our babies in Long Beach. This is what we have to win on now. This is what we have to win on first. So this all of the work combined are designed to put these building blocks in place to support the board to focus on what we call as board work. And we define board work as anything to do with the board's goals, anything to do with the guardrails, those limitations on what the superintendent shall not do, and then anything else, thirdly, that is legally required of the board. And so it's really hard to be great on behalf of students, and so it takes a lot of focus, and that's why it takes coaching. So that's the higher level answer, and I'll take a moment here to pause and catch my breath, and also just say that I see that AJ has arrived, so he also will be happy to hop in if there are when there are additional questions.
Further with this. So that's what we're trying to do, and you've given us two levers that you think the research supports what makes a school board effective, regardless of their political positions. And in fact, I think, in my experience, the idea is to take the politics out of it to a large extent and make it based on research, I won't say science, but social science research about how school boards are successful, to avoid the problems that have gone on historically, and I might say that are going on right now. I mean, we are facing challenges as members of school boards that are unprecedented, that have to do with whether we're going to what kind of federal money we're going to have going forward, whether they're going to be students are going to be certain students are going to be preferred over other students. Are immigrant students going to be able to still go to school? Are they going to want to go to school? And these are unique, new questions. But the school board has the same responsibility. I think this training is designed to help school boards work through those things without getting enmeshed in the local politics. I always have thought that the idea of inviting people who were in the community, who were interested in the school board and thought it was important, whether they had kids in school or not, to learn about the school district and what it does and how it does it, and to think about it is a great way to get people who decide to run for the school board to have a clearer understanding of what is going on and what needs to be done. I would expect some people would go, thanks for letting me know. I never want to do that. That's a lot of work. Or thanks very much. I think you're wrong, but I don't want to be involved in this. Or that's exactly the kind of stuff that I want to do. It's educational. It's not political. So I think that's a good start for what we're trying to do here. We are on a journey that's going to last for, you've got it going a couple of years. I think it's going to go longer than that. I hope we don't have to adopt a calendar tonight that is cast in stone. In fact, you've told us all, I think, individually and collectively, that it doesn't, but it's the beginning of a path that will hopefully take us to a place where we're being effective in doing what our community wants us to do for their kids and our kids and the kids that go to our schools, because it's the future. And it seems very neutral to me. It doesn't seem to be biased in favor, and there are opportunities to take the bias out of it because of this process. So, but anyway, I think it's a good beginning to say this is what we're doing.
Doug, thank you for that. And it brings to focus for me Ms. Lopez's question around, like, what did we sign up for here as elected officials? Here's what I signed up for. And it's actually, here's the premise with which I signed up for. The premise is, and it's based on the research and literature and based on this framework, school systems exist to improve student outcomes. That's the bottom line for me. And in our school district, we have educational disparities. So there is obvious evidence that we can do better as a school district. And so as a part of that, as I understand the framing, no plug to AJ here because this is a national discourse, all right? Our role is to help achieve the improvement of student outcomes by two ways. One is upholding our community's vision around student success. What does that mean to our community? And affirming the values around student success, so what we call our board goals and guardrails. There is literally no way right now for this board, based on this framework, to hold ourselves accountable to actually improving student outcomes without accountability measures. So we've done the board goals and guardrails. We have yet to update our bylaws. Our bylaws, some of them have not been looked at or updated in over a decade. So how would we expect the board that I signed up for, and I didn't realize this until I got to this position, there's a lot of stuff that just wasn't done. And in spite of that, the district did very well in some areas. And that's been the question that I've had. How did Long Beach do well in some ways without any of these mechanisms that the research and literature say make boards and districts more effective at doing that? So that's my end goal, right? In those areas that we need to do better around student outcomes, and we have the 4 goals, right? We couldn't do it without the 4 goals. In those areas that we need to hold ourselves accountable, the monitoring calendar, the activities listed here month by month in the timeline, the bylaws, right? We don't have a lot of our stuff codified. So if we're gonna have conversations around how we get items onto an agenda, then we need to be clear with ourselves and with our community. This is the way you hold us accountable. If we're gonna be student outcomes focused, then our agenda has to reflect that. And the last 2 times that we've done the self-assessment, we have scored 0 on being effective at actually moving forward. And that doesn't mean, and I'm not understanding it to mean this, that we can't do some things well and very well without this framework, without the mechanisms, without the systems, without the processes. But we have students that desperately need our help, our support, for them to be successful, for them to achieve their dreams. We have students that have been historically marginalized and underserved. And so I believe that that's what I signed up for, to be on a board that upholds our community's values and vision around student success, to uphold that commitment to ourselves by having tools and mechanisms to hold us accountable. Because look, if I'm not doing the job that I got signed up to do by our communities, that I was elected to, then I should get booted out and someone else if we can't improve those. But we have to have things in place. We have to have conflict of interest policies. We have to have things that dictate how we make decisions. And again, I've said it publicly, we have never adopted Robert's Rules of Order or a version of decision making. It behooves us, if we're gonna make decisions and vote on things that are gonna improve student success, to at least have an ability to hold ourselves accountable. So that's what I signed up for. I think that's what this timeline, we got to work out the details of when things happen, of how they happen. But what I'm hearing from you, Greg, is without us codifying our commitments through policy, then it's left up to our individual perspectives and understandings of how we move forward on this work.
So, and then I have, so I think we absolutely need to be student outcomes focused, but then how do we bring transparency to other areas if we don't discuss them in a board meeting?
Oh, that is a great question. So if that other area is related to the goals, then it will come up transparently as through the monitoring. If that other area, that hypothetical other area, is related to the guardrails or the interim guardrails, and that is a key piece of the framework puzzle that I don't think Long Beach has quite yet put into place, the interim guardrails, that also creates a level of transparency amongst the governing team and with the public, because those also get monitored. And then everything that remains legally required of the board, and I also live here in California, and our state legislature loves to put lots of legal requirements on our public school boards. So all of that work remains at the board's level if it requires your approval. And so all the transparency that comes with board work remains for all of those tasks. So then if you're now just talking about another area, it's not directly aligned to the goals or the interim goals. It's not directly aligned to the guardrails or the interim guardrails, and it's not legally required of the board. In our framework, that is delegated to the superintendent. That work is delegated to the superintendent. That doesn't mean that they can't still provide updates to the board. They very well, in many cases, will want to still provide updates to the board. Our coaching in those cases is how might staff update the board outside of the public meeting minutes, but not necessarily outside of the public meeting agenda. We have boards that use a system called receive items. For example, this is just one example. And I'm not sure if you use this, stop me if you do. But it's, a presentation or a staff report or something they want you to know because it's important and they want the public to know. Or you need the public to know sometimes. And it can be on an agenda and read into the record as a receive item, and there's links on the agenda so that everyone can download it and everyone knows that the board has access to that information and that the board has received it. But it's not necessarily at the level where the board needs to discuss it. Now, if there are questions, what the process we generally recommend is board members send in all their questions, staff respond to all the questions, and send back out both to all the governing team and also attached to that receive item, what were all the board member questions and what were all the staff responses, so that everyone gets all the questions. It's that same thing in the classroom where one kid might ask the question, but it really, lots of kids need to have the answer. So, just because only one board member asks, we want all board members to have access to the information and also the public.
Can you describe to the public the process we currently have for adopting board agendas and what the new procedures will look like in adopting the agendas?
I have no idea how you all create your agendas. I am looking forward to learning how you do it. But my coaching would be, and our coaching would be that that the board use its board meeting time and its board agendas to do board work. So our coaching will be that your board agendas should have work about the goals and the interim goals, work about the guardrails and the interim guardrails, and anything else that's legally required of the board. Boards don't often make that transition cold turkey. It can take a little transitioning, but that is definitely our coaching. And that's what I know for that. But I'm very curious how you all set your agendas.
Actually, the subject matter of agendas would be covered in our bylaws, and that's something we haven't completed yet. So, I'm sorry?
It's also here.
On the timeline.
Yes, it is.
But it'll be covered in the bylaws.
And can I speak to that dynamic that it's in both? Or go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just think it would be great for the public to know how board agendas are put together and who determines what's on board agenda.
We have policies already.
I'm sorry?
We already have policies about, or procedures about how that's done, right?
We do, but that's going to be covered in bylaws that we haven't adopted yet. And so I don't know if anybody else wants to speak to Dr. Baker.
I can share just high level that the items that that Greg referred to, so there are many compliance items. Of course, the approval of all of the things that you have to vote on. That is an aspect. We focus on our goals, so we have a mini monitoring calendar, which doesn't meet the requirements of what this implementation timeline requires of us. So we have an annual monitoring calendar. And we also have some of the things that pertain to our guardrails, although we don't have interim guardrails right now. So we're using, staff is using somewhat of a proxy for the things that have been talked about in student outcome focused governance. In addition to that, anything that the board votes on to have on an agenda gets placed on an agenda. So there's some consultation. At this time, there's consultation with the board president In those items, if you have contacted the board president, then she may bring it to you all for a vote if there's something to be on the agenda. Other than that, the things that I've described are currently how the agenda gets formed.
So I can speak to that too, Dr. Baker. Thank you for the high level. Again, my experience on this board has been that it had not been initially clear when I got on the board how items got to an agenda. I'm calling you doctor now, Doug. Mr. Otto and I worked for close to a year to update how the process was that we were going to put items on agenda, whether it was a member of the public, whether it was a board member. But at that time, we had not ventured onto the journey of student outcomes focused governance. So again, when we did the self-assessment the first time, and then we did it again, and we didn't actually do it. Leticia did it for us. We do not have the majority of our board agendas reflecting and upholding a student outcomes focus. So at that point, whether it was the first time or the last time, our board made a decision. If we want to uphold the values and the vision of our community around our board goals and guardrails, then our agendas need to reflect that. So when we talk about updating and revising agendas, it's the mechanism we're going to use to make sure that we have the agendas reflect our board goals and guardrails. And by the last account, we did not even have 50% of our time. And that's not a discredit to anyone here because the district moved on. We kept on doing business. But how can we expect to be effective if we're not effective in making sure that our agendas uphold what we want to do? And so, again, it's not that we don't have procedures in place, is that those procedures, those policies don't uphold and reflect our commitment around student outcomes, around this framework that we've decided to adopt.
It begs the question as to how that's done, that we are in this process will consider that. Right now, it's done. I don't know. I don't think it's perfect, but it's not far from well done. But it's part of this journey that we're on, and I don't think it's as critical as some other things. But we want to get that right as well, if there is a right way to do our agendas.
So if I wanted to right now say, Dr. Baker, I want to have an item on the next agenda, that wouldn't abide by policy. It would be nice if I had a great relationship with our board chair. I'd be like, come on, Diana, put that item on the agenda. That's not how we want to do business here on our board. I don't think any of us want that to uphold our governance.
No, and that's a very good point as far as the importance of this board changing its behavior. And that's what you spoke to earlier about maybe not understanding the previous success that our district has enjoyed with a board that, let's say, hasn't functioned at its highest potential. And one of the basic tenet of student outcome focused governance is that student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. And that's what we're doing. That is what we are on this journey for, is to change our behavior collectively as a board.
Whose behavior, President Craighead? Whose behavior?
My behavior. It's got to be my behavior. I've got to change my behavior so that, collectively we do better. And as we're talking about agendas, that's really one of the root issues to improving what we're doing, because as it's been mentioned here, it speaks to the commitment we have to our students. And so that has to show up on our agenda. So I do appreciate the conversation, because we're all striving for the same thing, but the outcomes won't change unless we are striving together, unless we have a shared vision, and that's what we're working on. Yes, Mr. Klein.
If I may, I'm sorry to speak up, not in direct answer to a question, but the bylaws work. I am glad to see board members finding pieces of these operational procedures throughout the timeline. You are reviewing a bunch of them all at once, and then you can see I've also like spaced out them. So that is to say, if you do it soon, and then later on you see it in the timeline for May or June, that you will decide at that moment, do we already need to reopen this conversation? Like again already? Or are we good for now? But I want to impress upon the board that reviewing these bylaws and these operating procedures to board member Benitez's point about how some of them go back a long time without any review. Our coaching is that you should be reviewing them at least annually. They are so important to how you all function. So no matter what, and bylaws, I mean, nothing is ever set in stone, right? And even stones erode away. But you know, whatever does get adopted by the board, whatever the language is of any of the bylaws, board members should expect regular review of bylaws. I'm up in the Bay Area. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You're never done. You're never done because it's so important that you always are, and you're always trying things out. You might say, "Hey, let's try this bylaw for a couple of months." Oh, it is not working for me. I need different language change. This is not going to work. So that this is not about what people got wrong in the past or what people got right in the past or what we're now all going to get, now with this timeline and this framework, it's all going to be better. This is a continuous improvement journey. You have long been on it. I will stop now because now I'm just preaching. So I'll be quiet.
Well, we appreciate the input. That's why we have a coach, is so that we are coached into doing the right thing. And as something that's come up earlier, a coach doesn't prepare their team. They go out, win a game, and say, "Great, we're done." It's a day after day, week after week, month after month process, and something that we are working on for our students. And I know that's why each of us signed up to do this work, and whether this is exactly the way we thought it was going to go or not, because each of us is passionate about student success, educating our students regardless of where they come from, who they are. That's why we're going forward, and that's the importance of what we're doing. You have something
One
else?
more question. In April, on the calendar says board and staff receive training on board work versus superintendent work. And my question is does this mean that the board will actually be the ones writing policy instead of legal counsel?
I don't know. That's a good question. What I would say is, what
Because that is our
training
job.
what that training boils down to is that board work is codifying the student outcome goals, and that's policy. So yes, that policy for sure. Codifying the guardrails, and that's policy. So definitely that's board work. And then anything that's legally required of the board. Now, this is and AJ, this is a moment where I'll ask for my own coaching here. So I'm encouraging you to come on and join me if you have a moment. I would say there are going to be some legally required items where the board is not going to delegate to the superintendent. Like there might be some legally required policies that the board's like, we want to be lead author on that, or first initial author on that. And I think the board has that authority because it's legally required of it to do that. Generally speaking, in practice, most boards do delegate kind of the first initial writing and authoring of other legally required policies to staff, whether it's their legal counsel or whoever. So I'll offer that, but I don't know. Is that responsive to your question?
Yeah, just leaving things the way that they are in terms of, I'm just talking policy because it's very clear that there would be training for board versus superintendent work. So board work doesn't tell policy, but we do know that legal counsel is the one that produces policy, and then we just make changes and
Got it. Well,
approve or not.
let me then offer one other thought then. In our coaching, and this is much lower down in the timeline. It's not one of those highest leverage levers to pull on, but ultimately, to create as much opportunity for the board to focus on improving student outcomes, we do coach boards to do a policy review. And we do coach boards on how to ultimately, we call it a policy diet, on how to reduce the policies on the books, so that it's as streamlined as possible, such that the policy manual is able to be reviewed. Every policy in the manual is able to be reviewed. In your case, every 4 years, the length of a board member's term. Board operating procedures are also policy. Those we recommend the board review their special case of policy every year. And board members, I don't know if we have a strong opinion on whether board members are the lead authors on, bylaws, or if someone else is the lead author, but definitely boards should not be adopting bylaws that they don't have, the board has to adopt the bylaws and make any changes to them that the board wants on them, regardless of who the initial first author was.
So Greg, thank you, and thank you for the question, Board Member Lopez. So I can think of two critical policies that haven't stemmed directly from either legal counsel, superintendent, or executive staff. Ultimately, they chimed in, they reviewed, and of course, we want to make sure that we legally abide by the policies that we're then taking action on. But a critical policy that has not just informed and guided, but that has anchored our work, was developed with community, our excellence and equity policy. We had hundreds of community members, and ultimately, narrowed down to 8. That's one of the pillars of our work that, again, we provided input, feedback on. Multiple legal folks looked at it. So there is precedent, and we had our disability resolution, History Week resolution. Our current bylaws, I don't know about you all, but I'm writing policy, all right? I'm sending notes. I don't have an attorney background for me to know legally what may be in question or in doubt, but that's why we have legal here. But I think I'm compelled to say this will be one of our most important policies, bylaws, right? We're actively writing, editing, reviewing. We had a December 7th retreat where we were saying, nope, that's gone. Take that out, right? Or why are we doing that? And I vividly remember you and AJ, I don't remember which one, Greg, saying, how would you word that? If you're going to cross anything out or delete anything, you all instructed us to provide the language that you want in that policy. So I wholeheartedly agree with Board Member Lopez. We should be involved, but I don't also want to spend all my time, drafting 100 policies that we have to update every year, or be in compliance in, or make sure there's alignment with state Department of Ed code. So yes, I want to be in trainings, but I also want to be able to, because she's the one that's running our district, to defer to Dr. Baker so that we can focus on the student goals and outcomes that we've set before us. So I think that's part of the work for me, right? Having a firm understanding of what do we want to use our time to be effective in advancing the outcomes that we have voted on and are now accountable to.
One key point I kind of want to double click on there. You said you're not a legal trained lawyer by training, and it's important that I want the board and the community to understand, we believe that the work of school board governance can be done at the middle school reading level. This is not that is not generally how it is done. It is full of legalese all over the place, but this is community work. You all are the experts in the vision and values of your community, and you got to speak with the language of the community, and whatever that may be for Long Beach. So I'm not trying to make any assumptions or anything. I'm just saying, like, this work can be done effectively without expertise. This is hard. A lot of this is heart work for sure. And yeah, this is also, I want to share, this is hard work. This is not easy. Board members should expect to be working in new ways, potentially in some cases more ways, but we also want you to know you're not alone. You got to coach it. You have a coach team. We're on your team. We want to help. And so there are no bad questions. You are throwing some amazing questions at us, and I really appreciate it. Your public deserves the seriousness that you are taking into how you're considering this item, and they deserve the transparency on both the questions and the responses. And lastly, I just wanted to say, you all deserve a coach. You deserve a coach. If it's not us and this framework, please go get yourselves a coach. Being a board member is hard. People are not born being expert board members, and they are so important, right? You all got into this work for such good reasons. There are more of you all in elected position in America than any other elected position in our country. And you're, in charge of our schools, and the future. So I just want to say thank you for your service. You deserve a coach. If it's not us and this work, please still go get yourselves a coach.
Greg, just one last thing, because and I appreciate the questions because I'm reminded of work that the board's already done. This board wrote our board goals and guardrails.
Yeah.
The homework that was assigned to us is show up. We're going to spend a Saturday, and everyone had an opportunity to write. I remember my wording on exactly, and then we got feedback on it. Then we asked the executive team, give us some data, right, to measure out. So we've written policy. Right, we wrote our board goals and guardrails as a board. Yeah, we finessed them, we went back and forth, but we were the drafters, the lead authors. And I'm going to take credit for this, Dr. Baker. We were the sole authors with feedback and input. And again, based on community's vision and values around student success. That's why we have our board goals worded around very specific target populations, again, using the tools and instruments for our most underserved students.
Thank you. So I want to bring us back to what we're doing right now. I mean, what's on our agenda right now, and that is that we're supposed to be adopting a calendar about what it is that we're going to do. And I look at the proposed calendar here, which is 12 pages long, and I'll do about a third of one page for the month of March of this year, which is this month. And by the way, today's the 5th, right? That means we have 26 days left to do that. And about how many meetings do we have during that time? One more. And there's a workshop at that meeting? Well, I'm looking at what we're supposed to accomplish at that meeting, and it says, and these are not all of them, but the things that I highlighted, the board adopts implementation timeline and begins work with a coach. Well, that's what we're supposed to do tonight. Good. Then it says board and superintendent teams receive training on inputs, outputs, outcomes, goals, guardrails, and interims. Okay, and then it says board trains on tracking time during board meetings, begins time use tracking of board meetings. So we're going to be doing that too. Then we're going to adopt updated bylaws, including the information provided by the superintendent to one board member is provided to all board members as one policy. And the board continually is monitoring monthly the progress towards the goals and guardrails in alignment with the monitoring calendar, and that's what we're going to be doing on the 19th. I'm going to suggest we start our meeting at about 4:00 in the morning, and we keep it on all day long, because to do all that stuff is going to be very difficult, especially given the number of different opinions we have about things. So the point is what you said at the beginning, Greg, and that is we need the opportunity to modify this as we go along.
You don't think we can do all that in one meeting?
I don't know. It depends on how much you talk one.
Then we definitely can't do it when we.
That's right. So, but the point is this: it's our agenda item. We need to do something with it tonight. I think this is the beginning of a good conversation about what we're doing. It's an introduction to student outcomes focused government in real time and with a real agenda. And I don't think we have to agree to do all the things, and I didn't read all of them, that we're supposed to do before the end of the month. But I think we need to make some progress on this and acknowledge that it's going to take a lot of effort. I mean, I've had this conversation with several members of the board and staff that this is really about a commitment to the doing of this, and it's about the relationships among members of the board to get this done, meaning that within the boundaries of the law, that we have to identify these issues and confront them, but we got to keep going. And we got to stay on task, and the task tonight is to come up with a calendar that we're going to do. And I almost said after this discussion, let's just adopt this calendar and then start changing it, because we can do that. That would be easy, but this is the beginning of a discussion of the things that we need to do and to be doing and to try and stay on this.
And I think we need a motion, actually.
We do need a motion.
Can I do that motion?
You absolutely can make a motion.
Great. I move to accept this calendar as set forth here, and as our calendar to move forward with the adoption of our student outcomes focused governance, and with an understanding, this is not part of the motion, that we can revisit this as time goes by on a regular basis to make sure that we're making progress collectively as a board and with the coaching that we are beginning to receive about this calendar.
Will you entertain a friendly amendment, Mr. Otto?
I don't know.
To include in, if we move forward with this, that we would include this, I think this is what I heard Greg say, in our consent calendar, so it would be an ongoing conversation and that we would be allowed to ask questions about it?
Yes, I think that our monitoring calendar ought to be on every single agenda. I won't say always on the consent calendar, because there may be times when we want to say, this is where we're at.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question for our superintendent. So Greg, was mentioning we need coaching, not necessarily AJ and Greg, but coaching. But we've already, sort of committed to that. Ongoing workshops, follow-ups, one-on-ones. For our contract with AJ and Greg, do we have the all-inclusive package, Dr. Baker?
Yes, we do.
Where we could just be on call and follow up, or is this going to be like a itemized
You
menu?
just approved the all-inclusive package from AJ and Greg, with Greg as lead coach. That also is for staff as we go through additional training, and we have Brian and our research team is in a year-long learning sequence similar to what you and Mr. Otto participated in. Diana went to a different kind of institute, but that coaching includes potentially some in-person sessions with us, Zoom, with our lead coach and AJ when he's available, but it's all inclusive, but you have to keep making progress. Perfect. It doesn't, the contract, as I understand it, does not hold you to exactly what's here. It holds you to continuing to implement in this timeline while you make adjustments to the actual timeline.
Yeah. I thought that was the case on the contract. I just wanted to make sure that then we weren't going to get billed additional if Juan Benitez reaches out to Greg multiple times this month.
Greg shaking his head no also.
Bring it on.
Okay, is there further discussion? Should we reiterate the motion just so we know exactly what we're voting on? Mr. Otto, would you like to?
Sure. I think I can do this, but Juan, you help me out on this. So the motion is to adopt the board implementation timeline presented to us by our consultants, and that we adopt it as it is with an understanding that we can modify it going forward, that we place it on each and every agenda from here until we're done with it, whether it's on the consent calendar or the regular calendar, and I think that's a motion.
Second.
You don't need a roll call vote for this, so take it away.
Okay. Ms. Lopez?
I'm going to vote no, and I want to give a reason for my no vote. I think that we need to change language in the document, and the first thing that just even comes up are the bylaws that we just received as board members 2 days ago, and just not enough time for us to realistically have a document in place where we have spent enough time reading, understanding, discussing, and for those reasons, that's my no vote. I also firmly believe that we need to maintain political neutrality and avoid the perception of endorsing candidates, and so that some of that wording needs to change.
Mr. Real, going forward, when we get to the vote part, is that discussion portion of the motion closed so that when we vote, we're just giving a one-word answer?
Yes, once the call for the question is for the vote, you should be a yes or no vote.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
Well, I think I just want to respond to.
Well, actually, we're just doing are you in favor or not? We're just taking a vote.
I thought there must be discussion because we just had some.
We're past the discussion part, and we're now doing a vote.
Aye.
I vote aye. Dr. Benitez?
I vote aye, and this is why we need to codify bylaws.
I believe that passes 3-1.
3-1 in absence.
3-1, yes, with an absence. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Klein. But I believe.
Good night.
Yes.
Have a good night.
I believe we are on to item 15.2. Did you have a question?
Well, before we leave, I want to thank AJ for all the coaching he did with us tonight. I thought he was brilliant.
Item 15.2, approval of resolution number 030525-A, opposing the education cuts in the U.S. House of Representatives fiscal year 2025 budget resolution and fiscal year 2025 appropriations bill that would reduce funding for K-12 schools and the programs that serve our most vulnerable children. So we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Do we need a roll call vote on this one, though? No? Okay. Ms. Lopez?
We're voting?
Yes, we're voting.
Aye.
Mr. Otto?
Aye.
I vote aye. Dr.
Aye.
Benitez? Then that passes 4-0. The next one, that's, the, we're going to read the next one. Yeah. And this is item 15.3, approval of resolution 030525-B to recognize the year 2025 as the Long Beach Unified School District's reaffirmation of its commitment to historically marginalized students. And I think before we take a vote, or should we start the vote before we read it? We're going to read the resolution.
I'd
We start-
rather us make a motion.
Do
Okay.
at least a motion and a
Yes.
second.
Okay,
I
well,
move to approve.
move
I
to,
second it.
great. And now we will each take turns reading a part of the resolution.
Whereas Long Beach Unified School District is resolute in its mission to build a safe, inclusive, and equitable educational environment that places the success of historically marginalized students at the forefront of its work, and whereas LBUSD Vision 2035 outlines the district's commitment to being equity-focused change agents with all adults as unwavering defenders of diversity, equity, and inclusion by modeling cultural awareness and engaging in ongoing self-reflection. And whereas public schools must catalyze real, measurable progress in dismantling inequities and closing opportunity gaps, ensuring that historically marginalized students receive the resources, representation, and advocacy necessary to thrive. And
whereas Long Beach Unified School District's mission is to prepare each student for a successful future by providing rigorous, culturally responsive, and culturally sustaining learning experiences while removing barriers to student success in an equitable, affirming, and forward-thinking school system, and whereas the Long Beach Unified School District Board of Education has adopted a resolution on inclusive education practices, emphasizing the district's dedication to creating school communities that promote, appreciation and acceptance of all student differences, and reinforcing historically marginalized students feel a sense of belonging, which in turn enriches the educational experiences for everyone. And whereas the Long Beach Unified School District unequivocally asserts its duty to protect and uplift historically underserved students by implementing decisive policies that dismantle barriers to success. And
whereas public education should ensure every student feels valued, respected, and empowered to reach their full potential, both academically and personally. And whereas LBUSD is dedicated to promoting understanding, reducing bias, and fostering mutual respect and acceptance through comprehensive ethnic studies and other culturally responsive programs. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Long Beach Unified School District and the superintendent will lead with action, not just intention, by implementing policies, procedures, and accountability measures, prioritizing safety, academic success, and full inclusion of historically marginalized students. This commitment is non-negotiable and integral to the district's long-term vision of educational justice. And
be it further resolved that the Long Beach Unified School District acknowledges that the district's strength lies in its diversity, and that our schools will not merely celebrate differences, but actively integrate the cultural wealth of historically marginalized students into every aspect of teaching, learning, and decision-making. Equity is not an aspiration. It's a standard that must be upheld daily. And be it further resolved that the Long Beach Unified School District will guarantee that its curriculum is reflective and transformative, intentionally designed to honor and uplift historically marginalized communities' histories, cultures, and contributions as a foundational pillar of a truly equitable education system. And I want to thank my colleagues for sharing in that reading. And now we will make that official by taking a vote. So, Ms. Lopez.
aye.
Mr. Otto.
aye.
Dr. Benitez.
aye.
And I vote aye. So that passes 4-0. And we are now at report of board members. So, Dr. Benitez, will you lead us off?
No report from me tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay, Mr. Otto.
So I want to focus my remarks tonight on something that I did last weekend at the end of Black History Month, which we all celebrated and was great. And that was that I went to a very, very moving ceremony at Poly High School to dedicate the track to Don Norford, who was a coach there for many, many years. And I want to tell you a little bit about him. There were 3,000 people in the stands that day. There were people that were members of the track teams that he coached. They were members of the football teams that he helped to coach, and the outpouring of support was so moving. For this 2.5-hour ceremony, they had 20 or more people, professional football players, students, people that he knew over the years. It was a real testimony and a send-off to the end of Black History Month. He was the most successful high school coach of all time. He coached at Poly from 1976 through his formal retirement in 2014, although he continued as an assistant football coach on and off since then. In 38 years as an assistant football coach, he worked with 45 future NFL players and became the first assistant coach to become an NFL high school coach of the year in 1996. On the track, he was the head coach for the boys and girls teams from 1989 to 2014, winning 18 state championships and 25 CIF Southern Section championships. He retired with more state championships in track and field than in any other high school in California, and had won in all sports combined. It's hard to describe the feeling that the people that were there had for him and the work that he did. He spoke very briefly at the end, and you could just tell that everybody was so happy to be there and to remember the contributions that he made to Poly High School, to Southern California athletics, and to the city of Long Beach. And so it was an honor to be there, and an honor that this board made the decision to name the track after him. And there was also it doesn't say it on the field, but his wife was a very important member of what it was that the two of them accomplished. So that's my report for tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Lopez?
Thank you. Yes. I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Lisa Delmar Edmonds, who is here in our audience, for graciously inviting us to Cubberley's Black History Month Museum. Lisa, what an incredible way to highlight the history and contributions of Black African Americans. The walk through the museum was an incredibly enriching learning experience for everyone in attendance. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for making it possible. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful night. Thank you for everything that you do. I also had the privilege of attending the 3rd annual Black History Celebration at Jordan High School. And this marked my 3rd year attending the event, and it continues to impress me. The student performers truly shone, and their gifts and talents were evident in every performance. A special thanks to everyone who worked tirelessly to make the event such a success. It was beautiful. I also attended Poly High's production, The Little Mermaid, as well as the Girls CIF Championship Soccer Games. And of course, what a joy it is to witness, or was to witness, the incredible talents students bring to both the stage and the field. Nice job, Jackrabbits, you were incredible. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Hughes Middle School for winning the Division I All-City Girls Basketball Championship, and to Limburg Middle School in Hamilton for winning Division II and Division III All-City Girls Basketball Championship. Congratulations to you all. We're very proud of you. Thank you.
My report's going to sound a little bit like yours tonight because I too attended the Carberly Family Night and Museum, and it was a wonderful event. I appreciated the beautiful displays and the interactive activities for the kids. It was a very busy month celebrating Black History Month. I attended an event at Patrick Henry, and that was a school-wide event in the morning, and the students recited poems and sang songs, and we had the Long Beach Blues Society there. It was just a fabulous celebration. And at Webster, there was an after-school performance, and that was their culmination of their Black History Month activities. And at Holmes, they did an entire school day learning about African Americans and labor. And so there was a gallery museum walk presented by the 3rd to 5th graders. And then, of course, our district event, which was Sankofa at the Apollo. And it's such a wonderful thing to be able to celebrate such a rich culture with joy and music and seeing everybody involved. And really, thank you to everybody. I know the teachers, we have staff members that go above and beyond, and they put in so much extra time. So thank you for that. And then also I attended Polly's production of The Little Mermaid because I love to support the arts. And I feel like the arts are so important for our kids in so many different ways, but the performance that I watched, the lead character, her mic didn't get attached to her costume during her quick change, but as kind of a metaphor for life, she had to figure it out on the spot in front of an audience full of people. And so she ended up having to hold the battery for the microphone. She had to literally hold it all together, come out there, sing, perform, and I thought, what great training for life. You never know what's going to come along. You have to be ready for anything. And you just have to go forward and do what you're going to do. And those students really gave a great performance. What talent. So that was such a joy. And then lastly, congratulations to Long Beach City College on their new state-of-the-art esports lab. That was an exciting celebration. Esports is a high-growth, multi-billion-dollar industry. And I know that we have esports programs in the district, so what I want our students to know is that they can matriculate to Long Beach City College, and Long Beach City College partners with UC Irvine with esports. These are high-paying jobs, so that's another pathway. So for our students, Long Beach City College, and then you can go on to UC Irvine, another option, and a pretty fun one at that. No report. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Good evening. So without objection, we'll adjourn the meeting. Good night.